Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining HSO's Educational Power Platform series. Just say go, accelerating your vision and driving your enterprise forward faster with the Power Platform. My name is Lindy Boulay, and we are joined with Tom Berger, our VP of Financial Services.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. I'm Tom Berger. I've been with HSO now for over 16 years. I lead the financial services practice out of the US. And I'm really happy to be talking about Power Platform because when we researched this webinar series, we found that there's a ton of content educating folks on the features and functions of Power Platform, but there isn't a ton of content on the business value of Power Platform or on how an actual app is built or the governance and security model and center of excellence of Power Platform. And guess what? Those are our 3 Power Platform webinars, starting with the business value with Matthew Case, and then going on with building an app with Richard Smith, and Varun Sabharwal is going to be talking to us about the actual center of excellence and governance and avoiding shadow IT. But this idea of a Power Platform and out of the gate and the horse imagery comes from Belmont, where I went, because I thought, what is so great about Power Platform? What's great about it is the speed to market and the ability to execute and drive something for your business. And the great analogy I thought was racehorses. They're fast, they're thoroughbreds, right? They're meant to do a task. And that's what Power Platform is all about. So speaking today is me pre-beard, and then Matthew Case post-beard, and then Evan Chaki is also going to be introducing. We're really honored to have him here because he's the principal program manager for Power Apps at Microsoft, and we have a great relationship with the product team over at Microsoft as a partner, as a trusted partner, a global partner. So we're really happy to have Evan introduce Matthew here. So who is HSO? Other than a 3-letter acronym, which Microsoft loves and we love, and everybody loves 3-letter acronyms. But what we are a Dynamics consultancy. We really work with the entire stack. If you look at, if you imagine Microsoft solutions as starting with cloud, with the Azure infrastructure, and then modern workplace, and biz apps, and then data and AI, and on top of it is industry IP. We provide the industry IP, obviously, in financial services, which is near and dear to my heart. But we also do all the stuff underneath it that supports it. And business applications is Power Platform. Power Platform's whole business is to connect between cloud and infrastructure and modern workplace and business applications. It's a communication thread. So we use that entire Microsoft platform, including Power Platform, to help our customers. So what are we going to be talking about today? Today, we've got a very simple agenda of 6 points. We're going to be laying the groundwork of what is it? Let's introduce some terms. Let's define the lexicon we're going to be using. Then we're going to be talking about a particular use case. Matthew will be sharing with us. We'll define what is the Power Platform, all the components of it that you've heard used interchangeably, and where it fits into your IT infrastructure. And then finally, the juice of the matter is how do you justify it? What's the business value of it? And then I can obviously talk about some next steps of where HSO adds value. I will be quiet now and let Evan Chaki introduce our entire webinar series.
Hello, I'm Evan Chaki from Microsoft, and I work on the Power Platform. Thank you for investing your time to learn about the Power Platform and how we can help you digitally transform your business. According to Forrester, 65% of organizations report an app development backlog, and 69% are looking to low-code technology as the way to accelerate this development. We know it's hard to find and hire developers to help you keep up with that backlog. Research is showing 1 million developer shortfall coming and a surge of demand for applications. Power Platform is the world's most complete low-code application development platform, built for citizen developers, pro developers, and IT across entire organizations. Low-code will accelerate your digital transformation initiatives by reducing the time and cost of building web and mobile applications. enabling your team to automate and enhance repetitive, time-consuming processes, and remove data silos with effortless integration to Dynamics 365, Office 365, and Azure. Not to mention the connectivity to your on-prem and cloud solutions that you've invested in outside of the Microsoft ecosystem. The Power Platform allows business users to quickly build applications with point-and-click approach to app design, and they can start from a template or even a blank canvas. And then they can leverage those skills that they have already learned by using Excel-like expressions to easily add logic and connect to data sources that you control. 25% of professional developers have already embraced low-code app development to automate repetitive aspects of their DevOps lifecycle. Now is the time to expand your scale by bringing in those business users that understand their process and pain points, and let them help you tackle your top business initiatives. Combining the abilities of both the business user and the professional IT staff member, these fusion teams work together to quickly create solutions in only 70% of the time it takes using traditional methods. With Microsoft Power Platform, there are no compromises on governance or security. We have one centralized view of management of your first and your third-party apps, eliminating shadow IT. GDPR compliance and enterprise-grade security is consistent with the experience you already have today within Office 365 and Dynamics 365. You are in control of the data connections employees can connect to in the solutions that they're building. With our data loss prevention capabilities, your team defines what can be used and what data sources should not be used together when building an application. Your team should leverage the Microsoft technology stack to build enterprise apps. Tools they use today like Visual Studio, VS Code, DevOps, and GitHub are available for them to use in the Power Platform. This enables the end-to-end lifecycle of applications from custom developments all the way to hands-off ALM functionality and deployments. You can scale your team's innovation on top of apps and automation by leveraging the other low-code application capabilities like AI Builder, virtual agents, and the connectors to build intelligent solutions that span multiple systems and workgroups. We are recognized by analysts as the leader in low-code application development by demonstrating a strong strategic and our vision, as well as the ability to execute. The Power Platform sits at the heart of our mission at Microsoft to empower every person and organization to achieve more. My hope is that you'll be inspired today with this webinar to empower your company to achieve more. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matthew Case. I'm a functional architect at HSO. I've been doing this for about 10 years, working with Microsoft Dynamics for the vast majority of that time, and big fan of Microsoft Platform. Obviously, have seen it evolve a lot over the past several years and see a really bright future for where Microsoft is headed. What motivates me and the part of my job that I like the most is just helping people. There's lots of different ways to do that, and the way that I help people is by building software that resolves business problems and makes end users' jobs easier and more efficient, hopefully. Today, we're going to be talking about Power Platform. Maybe you've heard that term thrown around. Maybe you're familiar with it. Maybe you know nothing about it. We're going to answer those questions. We're going to tell you what it is, how does it fit in potentially your organization or a organization, and what value does it potentially bring. And I'm going to dive into a story that kind of illustrates how I've seen it applied in the projects that I work on. So I recently had a project and a client this year that was on a very tight time frame, and they had, a pretty limited budget. It was a small project, but they had some complex requirements. For those of you that have worked in IT for a long time, once you solve a problem, it's a lot easier to solve it a second time. But the first time you're solving a problem, it's always a little bit more intimidating because you're not sure, am I going to be able to come up with the most eloquent solution? Is it unsolvable? Is the amount of effort that it's going to take worth the outcome or the problem that we're trying to address? These are all problems that I deal with on a daily basis, and as IT professionals, all of you probably have as well. There was a pretty complex requirement that came up, towards the end of the project. I had never done it before. No one on my team had ever done it before. It was very conceptual. It was using relatively new products like Teams, the Flow or Power Automate from the Power Platform. You may have heard it called Flow before. And they wanted functionality that was kind of bending rules that existed in my mind for my entire career. Like, if you wanted something done for a user that was outside of the CRM, right? Outside of the platform, not a user with a user login and credential, that really wasn't an option. It was, well, how do we get them into the platform was the answer to that question. So this business wanted some things triggered and notifications sent to people that were not users of the system where the actions were taking place when actions took place, right? I documented the requirement and kind of architected, this is how I would imagine this flowing. But again, there was no precedent on how do you get information to flow from one Microsoft product to another product and get information that's inside of the Power Platform to a user that isn't using that specific application. So what we did, I went to one of our more technical developers and said, hey, can this be done with Power Automate? And the answer was very simple. Yes, right? And within several hours, the prototype was built and tested and then launched to the client to much excitement and success and acceptance from the client. So let me break down this process again. We were able to create when there was an action inside of their instance of, it was a Power App that allowed their team to manage cases. Okay. So when a new case came in, they wanted a certain team that was maybe tied to that case to get a notification to know that there was a case that came in and that they might want to review it. So they were able to get a notification in their teams, and they also were able to type in at mention and then the case number for the case that was created, and they would get a status update as well as all of the high-level information from that particular record delivered to them in the Teams chat pane. Okay, so this was all custom built, but built without writing code. It was a low-code, no-code solution. The people that were involved in building it had never done it before. They had varying levels of technical experience, and they were able to do it. So by deploying this solution, they were able to solve a couple problems. They were able to give information to users that needed the information, but didn't have to go to one more application, right? They didn't have to have one more website bookmarked. They were able to collaborate with the people that were working these cases internally more easily, more readily than they had been before, using a platform that they were already comfortable with, which was Teams. This was a mind-blowing experience for me because my job as an architect is oftentimes to tell customers no, is to say, I'm sorry, the platform that you've chosen does not do what you want it to do. Or the level of complexity of what you're asking for is more than you understand, and it's going to cost more than it's worth to build. Because a lot of times custom is our option if we don't have a out-of-the-box way or a module we can deploy quickly or intellectual property that we've already done for another client or in our intellectual property library. So we were able to deliver a solution that had never been done before in relatively short time, relatively low code that could be managed by the client after the fact and get information to people that didn't even have a license to the program that we built the actions in. So my mind exploded. Instead of saying no every time a client asks for something now or feature, I realized that I was going to be able to say yes in most situations. And that was really an eye-opening moment where I realized that the future has arrived and that Microsoft had really outdone themselves on the product launch in terms of the Power Platform. Okay, I saw the vision where everything was connected, and it was kind of this universal aha moment about the power of the Power Platform, and probably is why their marketing team came up with that name. So I want to talk about what it is, what elements combined make this concept that we keep talking about, the Power Platform. You may have heard the term dataverse, right? There's the data layer. So the common data model operates within the dataverse, and attributes of the contact go into the dataverse, or other record types will go into this dataverse. And wrapped around the data model are the web services that get generated and allow you to integrate with the dataverse and talk directly from one app to another and transfer information and data very easily as well. We think about the old days where we had lots of different apps that all had their own database, and we call that a data silo, when things exist separate from each other and can't talk. The Dataverse under the Microsoft Power Platform allows all of these apps to talk very easily and share a centralized database. The user interface is part of that model as well, where the consistency among the different apps and modules and the streamlined administration tools really help manage this. And also there's a lot of no-code or low-code solutions to be able to move data or write integrations or write jobs that can make updates as needed in your Dataverse. And if any of you have ever used a platform where you're able to kind of go through and do settings, right? Configuration, or use pre-configured screens to drag and drop and design a website. A lot of the Dataverse tools and within the Power Platform are that kind of tool, where you could build a good system that did pretty much everything you wanted it to without writing code. And so this allows more people inside of your organization to be able to pick this tool up and run with it. Power Apps are the other big driver in the Power Platform. You may have heard it in the past referred to as Canvas apps versus model-driven apps. Microsoft is now trying to combine that under one roof, which they are just referring to as Power Apps. There's a lot of out-of-the-box things that exist, and maybe you've heard of in different names before, that are under this Power Apps umbrella. But the world is really opened up here as well, where you can use the same Dataverse and create a Power App that connects to that Dataverse, right? That data set. And for example, you could have something where customers scan a QR code and then they're able to input their own customer data instead of one of your employees doing it, which would increase the accuracy of the capture and potentially the amount of information that is captured, since it's voluntary by the participant, not necessarily by an employee that's doing it all day and may start to have shortcuts in the process or not ask for certain information because it's awkward or something like that. So having Power Apps and having access to these Power Apps also allows you to quickly deploy things, to have proofs of concept that you deploy rapidly, to just try something out for a team and do beta tests. All of this is more readily available at a lower cost because of these low-code, no-code solutions and the fact that you're utilizing existing databases. Power Automate is one of my favorite parts. I talked about that in the story. Power Automate also is one of the mind blowers in terms of the limitless potential that exists. There's an app called If This, Then That. If you've heard of this app before, then I think you already kind of understand what Power Automate is and what it can do. If you don't, you should Google it. It's kind of a cool app. But Power Automate is a rules engine that can connect a lot of different things, not just Microsoft products, not just your Dataverse, but can connect to external systems or external sites, external apps. If you guys are using MailChimp to do marketing, it can connect to that. If you're using Gmail to do your mail, it can connect to that. And there's a lot, thousands and thousands and thousands of out-of-the-box connectors and Power Automates that already exist. So you can go out and get these rule-based engines and apply them to your own data set. And again, make no-code or low-code updates to them, which will then assist you in having these processes run and automating things that may be today a manual process. So the Power Automate functionality gives you the ability to automate things, again, in a no-code, low-code solution, and allows you to connect using out-of-the-box connectors to probably most of the apps that you already use. And if there is not one that already exists, it's very easy to create a new one from scratch, right? To say, if somebody creates a new case and it's assigned to Amy, then send Amy an email, right? Is a simple example of how that rule would work. But we've also built here at HSO even more complex things where a user can select their notification preferences in an app and what they get notifications on, and if they get notifications sent to their email versus text messages to their cell phone. We built this Power Automate flow, if you will, that allows these users to manage and control their notifications a lot more, where before we were just kind of saying, let's not do notifications unless blanket across the board, everybody needs a notification. This allowed us to give users the ability to choose what they want notifications on. So that's Power Automate in a nutshell. One of my personal favorites. If you've ever worked with workflows in Microsoft Dynamics, then you probably have a good idea of like a light version of what Power Automate is. And there still are some restrictions, but this is something that there's a lot of focus and energy in from Microsoft right now. They're developing it a lot. So I'm excited to see where it gets taken. Okay, so another element of the Power Platform stack is Power Virtual Agents. I know we're all fearful and awaiting the AI takeover, but until that happens, we do have some control over these virtual entities that exist online. On the Power Platform, there's Power Virtual Agent. If you have a chat, a public-facing website where there might be a chat feature, or even internally, like a help desk, you can deploy these chatbots to engage conversationally with your customers or employees. And again, it's rules-based. There's no coding required. You just have to give input for, these are the answers to these questions, or if this information is brought up in the subject when they send a message to this chatbot, then this would be the response, or these are the potential responses, or this link is sent. So again, rule-based, but gives you the ability to give the input there without having to write an algorithm from scratch. Another element that you guys are all probably familiar with is Power BI. A competitor is Tableau. I hear that one probably just as much as Power BI, but the concept is the same between them. It's a way for you to write reports and visualize information using data from your Dataverse, but also can pull data from outside platforms or from spreadsheets or from other apps. And it takes all that data and puts it together, and you can code it to make updates and have real-time dashboards with beautiful charts that illustrate the data that you want your users or customers to be able to see. There's a lot of cool out-of-the-box reporting that exists throughout the different Power apps, but Power BI really takes it to a next level and supercharges your data reporting and the reporting ability that you guys have. This is just a tip for me, my personal opinion. I would say if you're going to hire somebody, and one skill that you might want to look for is the ability to do Power BI reporting, because that person is definitely worth their weight in gold in terms of the ability to deliver simplified data from a complex data set. So PCF controls, I'll just briefly mention as well, are other widgets that can also be dropped into your Power Platform solution. And they're pre-built widgets that also connects data. Kind of was talking about that a little bit with the different Power apps that exist and some of the connectors that exist for Power Automate. These PCF controls exist out there as well, and there's a plethora. So if you have the question, I wonder if there's a connector from the Power Platform to this, the answer is probably yes. Bing it, and there's probably a good chance it's out there. So the other question that we wanted to answer with this presentation was, where does it fit? I hope that already you can see that it fits almost anywhere, right? Everybody on this call has been around long enough to understand that the old way of doing things really revolved around lots and lots and lots of planning and then delivering of products and slow iteration on those products. And there's still a place for that. And there's still products that probably need that level of consideration and detail. But the Power Platform allows you to be able to enter and be agile. Like we think about the buzzword startup, right? Like, oh, we got a scrappy startup mentality here. I mean, it is a buzzword, but this gives the ability to try things quickly, fail quickly, iterate quickly, and try something else. Where before there was lots of testing that would have to be involved, this can be thrown out a little bit faster, and you can kick the tires and then be able to iterate quickly as well. The other advantage is this scales with the security that already exists in the Microsoft platform. And so it's, not having to manage and define security in a ton of different apps. And then also the same thing, it fits into small organizations, medium organizations, and large organizations, because all of them have needs that could be met by this. If you have no IT department, a small IT department, or a very, very large IT department, this also makes a lot of sense because it's easy enough and cheap enough to hire out for a fast turnaround on a product for smaller companies or medium companies, but it's also attainable enough that if you have a savvy business analyst or end user of your products at your company, they can probably ramp up and learn how to make some of this stuff. You don't have to have gotten your degree in computer science to be able to build something. If you can conceive it and think through the steps, there's probably a good chance you'd be able to learn how to build it. So those are a couple advantages and how it might fit at your organization. It's really, what can you imagine? Right? Bring those ideas to our team and let's talk about it. If you have something that you haven't been able to solve with other platforms, you may have found the platform that will work for your business. Continuing on in terms of more specifics on where this fits, there's lots of modules that exist inside of the Power Platform. This isn't just CRM. It's not just ERP. There's a lot of things that exist inside of it and a lot of modules that Microsoft has created recently to be able to address specific needs. And there's a lot of third-party things and things that HSO has made recently that will address specific business needs. Just to name a few, there's a recruiting management app, there's client onboarding apps, inspections app, COVID-19 vaccine and contact tracing apps. You can use apps that manage employee onboarding. Also, next best action apps that are completely unique and custom. There's ways to do controls and visualizations of data that are outside of the Power Platform using other Power Apps, or if you want to digest that information from the Power Platform in another reporting tool, it plays nicely with other reporting tools. Even if you have Salesforce, for example, that does not exclude you from the ability to benefit from the Power Platform or the connections that come through Power Automate and the Power Apps that exist. So where there's a will, there's a way. If you can think it, it can now be built, like the story I mentioned earlier illustrated. Okay, so business value, right? Like what's in it for me? I hope that your interest has at least been piqued and there has been some value that has come across your mind up into this point. A couple specifics just to call out, right? Time to market. Software projects can take a really long time. The Power Platform, we've seen even on our own projects, has reduced the cycle. The dev cycle has been reduced through the Power Platform compared to other code writing and development teams because of the accessibility and usability that Microsoft has put into the platform. Also, deployment is always a challenge. And when you already are committed and on the Microsoft platform, deployment is a lot faster when you have the Power Platform, because like I said before, it's something you can build, choose the group that you want to give access to, security already exists, and boom, they're able to do it. If it's a shorter development cycle, that saves something else, and that is on cost, right? The smaller a project can be, the less of a cost it is. And if it's providing value, you can reinvest and that investment will go further because the Power Platform allows you to do more with less. Another huge value is integration. Anybody, again, that's been in tech for long enough knows how painful integrations can be. With the Power Platform, you're able to integrate faster. You're able to already have access to all of your data under your roof if you have the complete Microsoft Dataverse. It also plays so nicely with so many other apps that you're able to pass information or pull information a lot more easily than you ever have been before. So the connectivity of the Power Platform, pulling data out of silos and making it accessible, that is so easy, so straightforward. A lot of times we have customers that will say, oh yeah, like we've got data over here, but we only have licenses for this team for that tool. And so if they need additional information, they have to send an email to somebody on that team who then emails it back. Once we eliminate the data silos, everybody's able to see information that should have access to that information. And you can control that with security. But again, it's a lot less back and forth, a lot less chatting and emailing to find the right information. The integrations that exist and the ability to kind of centralize data is a huge win. Another thing that I think is just really great is the flexibility or creativity. If you can dream it, you can do it kind of mentality. Any one solution that we have and develop typically has things that are customized for the customer and tailored specifically to those business needs. This platform allows you to do that. It gives you a good template and a good starting point, and then you can build on it and make it your own in any way. And if it comes to, I've talked a lot about low code, no code solutions. Sometimes high code is necessary or preferred, and that is okay with this platform. It plays nice, and Microsoft has very clearly articulated the things that can and can't be done in the platform to stay within their upgrade guidelines and et cetera. I really appreciate the time today. Hopefully you were able to derive some value from what I talked about and understand the Power Platform a little bit more clearly. Thanks a lot.
I just wanted to say that I work with Matthew every day, and that enthusiasm and that passion for customer engagement comes through. And if any of you have had a chance to see our Challenge Accepted webinar series, where I get the opportunity to interview Matthew about a specific client engagement, please check that out. It's a great series about our consultants where we highlight the people we work with, and they are really the value that makes HSO tick. So what's next? This is the point of the webinar where I give you the pitch, right? So all levity aside, we're a consultancy. We derive our value in the marketplace from delivering solutions to clients like yourselves. And we can work with you to identify use cases. And that's one of the most challenging aspects of engaging with the Power Platform, because a low-code, no-code app dev platform is all about delivering use cases to the business, to your business partners. And so we can work with you on that. And as a way of kind of getting the juices flowing, insofar as use cases are concerned, we do have session 2 on June 15th, where we show you in real time how an app is developed. You know, it feels like Schoolhouse Rock, right? How an app is born. So the point of it is that Richard Smith, who's one of our senior solution architects, will actually take you through a day of developing an app right there in 20 minutes and show you how it's compiled, how it's generated. And it's an app in financial services, but this can easily be in any other vertical. So we hope you'll join us for that. So at this time, we wait for questions from you. Any questions?
All right, we have a question here. How do multiple devs work on a single Power App solution in each of their changes merged to the master version?
That's a really good point, and I'd like to take that one offline and follow up with you, Sajana. I saw that question come through, so let me follow up with you on that offline, and maybe we can have a conversation, because that's getting into the weeds of app dev methodology, if that's okay. It's probably a longer conversation.
All right, and another question would be, what have you seen customers struggle with in deciding to deploy the Power Platform?
Yeah, where customers have struggled the most is going back to their business analysts and understanding where there are needs and doing that business analysis, doing building the business case for the apps. I've seen that cycle go back and forth. So one of the things that we've been able to do is engage in helping customers build a center of excellence, and that helps strategically define across the organization where the Power Platform can be deployed. And that can either be with your app dev team or in an onshore, offshore combined capacity. And we see that that is the critical first step in the enterprise in order to define the use cases. And then you start to build business cases for app dev motions. And I think that that's a really important first step.
All right. We have another question. How does the Power Platform compare with other low-code, no-code solutions?
Yeah, I'm hearing that a lot. There's a lot of noise in the marketplace about low-code, no-code. Everybody's looking at it. Goldman Sachs just published a study saying that if you're not thinking about low-code, no-code applications, you better watch out. It's a time-to-market issue. I think that what you need to think about is overall corporate strategy around the Microsoft platform. If you are an organization that has invested in Azure and in the Microsoft stack, in M365, O365, et cetera, you need to seriously consider it because it ties all of that together. Even if you have legacy apps in your ecosystem, we showed Workday, we showed ServiceNow, we showed Salesforce. We've integrated to all of those. We built an app integrating SAP to Salesforce, SAP on-prem, Salesforce in the cloud, obviously. And because the organization needed to get that functionality delivered to the business, and I think that's their underlying infrastructure is Microsoft. So if they're looking at their underlying infrastructure being Azure and M365, you need to think about it from a business case perspective because it will generate those returns.
All right. And next, what does it take to set up a solution like this?
Okay, so this is where I come back to Center of Excellence. There is a quote-unquote Center of Excellence application and toolkit that Microsoft publishes, but it's more than that. It's also about setting up the diagnostic, setting up the organizational strength, training your organization, and getting that discipline in place. We actually engage with customers, enterprise customers, on building out that Center of Excellence. And I think that is strategically the first step. Some clients have said, let's build a POC, let's do a proof of concept around one app. And while that's great and proves the point, what it doesn't do is it doesn't set up the strategy, the strategic vision in the organization for moving overall into this direction, into low-code, no-code. It's got to be driven from the top. The CTO needs to say, yeah, this is a reasonable investment for our organization. And yes, it will generate either from an RPA perspective or app dev perspective or mobility perspective, whatever the use cases end up being, it will generate return on investment. And so we need to invest strategically in uncovering all the opportunities for it. And then you will generate the wow factor and it'll feed upon itself. And then you'll have that standard in the organization for app dev from a low-code, no-code perspective. That's how, but easy peasy, right? So simple. You can just go and do it. In all seriousness, we can help. And we're eager to engage and have further conversations, even on an exploratory basis. The goal is please ask us questions, challenge us. This is an emerging technology. We're really excited to be partnering with Microsoft on this and putting it out there. As with all emerging technologies, it is an interesting time to ride that wave. It's a proven tool. So let's get out there and prove it in your environment, in situ, and get going doing some app dev in Power Platform.
That's right. All right. Well, here's contact information for Tom and Matthew. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We thank all of you for attending. Tom, do you have anything to add?
No, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. We're really honored by you spending your time with us today and hope to follow up and hope you join us for part 2 next week.
Yep. Sounds good. Everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.